Manga-Waido.
Hello, I'm Yuka Tominaga. I'm a 24-year-old graduate student. I major in cultural anthropology, which is a branch of anthropology focused on the study of cultural variation among humans. The purpose of anthropology is to make the world safe for human differences. That's what my late father used to say. My father used to travel all over the world as an anthropologist. When he was on field work deep in the jungles of South America, he fell ill and passed away. I was devastated by his death and couldn't stop crying for a long time afterwards, but my mother wouldn't let me bury myself in sorrow for long. Come on, Yuka, snap out of it. We have to hold our heads up high and live life to the fullest. Your father wouldn't want it any other way. My mother was true to her word and immediately started working to put me through school. My father's family was quite well off, so he was able to focus on his work without much concern financially. And when he passed, he left a small fortune for us as well. But my mother was adamant that we would not rely on my father's money, and that she would work to bring me up and put me through school. A little while after I entered the college my father used to lecture at, I started working part-time with my mother's urging. The job was as a maid at a small hotel near the school. While I was working there, I met this guy, and he was really kind to me, which really cheered me up, as I really hadn't made any friends at school yet.
Oh my god! You're Professor Tominaga's daughter? I didn't realize he had such a beautiful daughter!
Apparently, Mr. Kojima had attended several lectures by my late father. He had also stayed at the hotel whenever he had lectures at college. Apparently, Mr. Kojima knew my father well, and so he was very cordial to me. And after a while, we grew closer. He started to remind me of my dad. He was much older than me, so we kept our relationship discreet, at least for a while. We kept this secret just between us, which was sort of exciting for someone who's never had a serious romantic relationship before. One day, Mr. Kojima opened up about his family about 6 months after we started seeing each other. Something he never usually talked about.
Unlike your wonderful family, my folks were a disgrace.
What do you mean they were a disgrace?
Yeah, well, the usual. Gambling, drinking, and having a good time. Everything you hoped a parent is not. But fittingly, my good-for-nothing dad eventually died of liver problems. Have you ever had any animosity towards your dad, Yuka?
I really didn't know how to answer him. I did resent my dad sometimes, but that was because he would take off on one of his trips overseas, but I was never angry at him, just sad.
I remember your dad saying, there can be no progress, no achievement, without sacrifice. I recall him saying that during his lecture on the Aztec culture, how they practiced human sacrifice.
You remember all that, huh?
Yeah. He used to joke about how he sacrificed his family in order to continue his research. That got all the students laughing.
Our relationship continued for several years, and gradually, things began to change. I was slated to study in Africa as a research assistant. What? But why? Why do we have to break up?
Well, that's because you're Professor Tominaga's daughter, that's why.
As we sat solemnly in his room, he slowly put his glasses down.
That passion your father had for his work, that devotion, it's in the blood. You're just like your father. This research you're embarking on, how long will it last? You may even decide to stay on with your research.
I really didn't know how to respond. He was right in a way. I wanted to carry on with the work my father had such a passion for. I was totally focused on my research. It took some time to get permission to go and live with a tribe in deep Africa to study their culture and practices. This was the chance of a lifetime.
Yuka, you're still young. You have a bright future ahead of you. Live your life to the fullest.
But I can't just leave you.
I think it would be better that we break up. Focus on your research. You'll never have a chance like this again. Don't let a middle-aged guy like me hold you back.
But couldn't we? But in the end, we broke up, and I flew to Africa to begin my research deep in Africa. I just focused on my research and forgot all about my sorrows. In order to build a close relationship with the tribal people in Africa, I lived and worked with them for more than 6 months. The language barrier and the cultural differences were certainly difficult, but every day was a rewarding experience. The trouble began after I finished the 6-month research trip and returned to the host university in the UK. I had received a letter from Japan. It was from my mom. The letter contained a photo. No way. This can't be correct. Hello, Mom. I received your letter and the photo. Is that person in the picture who I think it is? Hey, Yuka! It's been a while, hasn't it? How was Africa? I bet you were pretty surprised to see that photo. As I wrote, I'm thinking of getting married. As I talked to her, I looked down at the photo one more time. The photo showed my mom in a beautiful evening dress, and the handsome guy standing next to her was none other than my ex-boyfriend, Mr. Kojima. But I couldn't very well come out and say he was my ex. She went on about how she got to know him for the last 6 months and that they had a small engagement ceremony with close friends and relatives, although they were not legally married yet. My mom seemed so happy that I couldn't bring myself to tell her that he was previously my lover, but I decided to depart for Japan as soon as I could. When I returned, I called Mr. Kojima, and we met at our old secret cafe we used to frequent.
Hey, Yuka. It's been a while, huh?
How could you be so indifferent?
What's the matter, Yuka? Are you angry at me?
Am I angry? What do you think? You drop your girlfriend and then con my mother to marry you? Do you want me to congratulate you or something? What the hell is going on here?
Nothing's going on. I just happened to meet your mom after I split up with you, that's all. It was just coincidence. I fell in love with her. What can I say?
I don't believe that. It's the money, isn't it? The money that my father left us.
Please, careful with such false accusations. All I did was follow my heart.
I was taken aback by his uncaring attitude.
After your father died, you and your mother said you would strive to be happy. That's what your father would have wanted, right? Well, just leave it all up to me. I'll be sure to make her happy. As long as you stay quiet about our little affair, it'll be just fine. You're not a kid anymore, Yuka. No progress, no achievement without sacrifice. Isn't that right?
Don't you dare reference my dad.
Yeah, whatever. Anyways, as long as you remain tight-lipped about us, well, your mom will be the happier. That's what you want for your mom, right?
How could you? You're pathetic!
But even if you don't agree, it's not as if we're married. We split up a long time ago, so legally, I'm not liable. But you know, we can avoid all the hassle.
Kojima seems quite confident as he stood and left the cafe. He knew about my father and the fortune that he had left us. He approached us knowing full well of our situation. This was all planned. At that moment, I reached a decision. And another thing, that guy has misunderstood one important thing. My mom is not the kind of person that relies on a man to survive. She's always been a strong-willed woman. I decided to explain the entire situation to my mom. Although she seemed a little shocked, she eventually got the message. Can you believe it? 2 gullible women duped by this scoundrel. But what am I going to do? I already had that little engagement party. What do I tell everyone? We got duped, so we have to return the favor. No progress without sacrifice, right? If it means our future, that's a little embarrassment. I'm okay with that. You sound like you have a scheme all worked out. We're going to have another party, a much bigger one this time. I arranged for a huge party at the hotel that Kojima worked at. I invited all the hospital staff, as well as some close friends. The size of the party was as if it was a real wedding ceremony. Every time he was referred to as the groom, he would smile shyly, putting on an act. And my mom, she played along, smiling as if she were the happiest woman in the world. And then the climax of the party finally came.
May I have your attention, ladies and gentlemen? I have a heartwarming message from the groom, Mr. Kojima.
The room lights dimmed and a screen slowly appeared behind Kojima. He squinted as a spotlight was directed toward him. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for attending this wonderful party on our behalf. I've never been so moved. A little while after he started making his speech, a murmur began to arise from the guests. Everyone except Kojima looked concerned. I don't blame them for their concern. On the screen behind him were numerous photos of me and Kojima holding hands or hugging each other. Photos of when we were lovers. At that moment, I looked toward the MC and gave him a signal. Am I angry? What do you think? You drop your girlfriend and then you con my mother? Do you want me to congratulate you or something? What the hell is going on here? Coming out of the speakers was my voice, a recording of that conversation that I had with Kojima in the cafe.
Huh? What the hell's this? What's going on here? As long as you remain tight-lipped about us, well, your mom will be the happier. That's what you want for your mom, right? But even if you don't agree, it's not as if we're married. We split up a long time ago, so legally, I'm not liable. But you know, we can avoid all the hassle.
Then my mom grabbed the microphone from Kojima. Thank you all for coming today. Well, just as you have witnessed, my daughter and I were hoodwinked by this scoundrel. So embarrassing. Right then, the chairman of the hotel stood up. The anger on his face was undeniable.
Kojima! What's the meaning of this? You've got a lot of explaining to do, Buster! Please, sir, it's not what you think!
After that, I got the hotel staff together and explained the entire situation. We're so sorry it had to be this way. As you can imagine, it all didn't go down well with the staff members after about 6 months. Kojima resigned from the hotel and disappeared. One staff member that knew him well said he was working at some fast food joint downtown. As for Mom and I, we're back to living together and having a good time. I jokingly said I needed to find a new boyfriend, and my mom suggested we both apply to a dating service. Of course, we were just kidding around. We were okay without any guys, at least for now. I'm just gonna focus on my research.